Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Zen News Live and welcome to this English news edition coming up in the next 20 minutes. People's National Army intensifies counter-terrorism operations amid Algeria's critical security situation. Plus, FCE Forum establishes its bureau in Tizi province and calls Algerians abroad to invest in their home country. And later on in our news program, Syrian government forces advance into Palmyra on several fronts today, Saturday, with support from airstrikes amid heavy bombardment. Hello there again and thanks for joining us. Counter-terrorism efforts in Algeria have always been important in keeping the country secure and safe. For this purpose, the National Defense Ministry has put in place a green number for the citizens to use in order to help army forces cope this plague. Lamia Ashur for more details.
The National Defense Ministry is putting in place a green number for the citizens to report any emergency cases by sending text messages, calling for their vigilance and participation in the Army's counter-terrorism efforts. The citizens are indeed considered an important part in combating this plague. A recent terror plot was successfully foiled due to the citizens' vigilance, who reported suspicious behavior and helped to bring down terrorists who were plotting a suicide attack at a local municipality's headquarters, thus proving that army forces cannot always be the sole players in security operations. The public awareness campaign conducted by the Ministry of Defense to sensitize the citizens about the importance of combating terrorism has proved itself efficient during Algeria's dark decade of terrorism in the 90s and is now implemented once again to eradicate this plague, on the one hand by intensifying religious awareness speeches and on the other by using modern intelligence technologies.
In related security news, Algeria is persisting on its fight against terrorism and has now reinforced many pre-strategic plans as preventive measures against youth recruitment in terrorist ranks. According to security experts and analysts, Algeria is on the right path, for it has engaged all the citizens considered the cornerstone of the country's stability. Karim Fazakri.
Algeria's war against terrorist groups, which became a serious threat to the security and the stability of the country, especially in light of security deterioration in neighboring countries on the one hand and the widening influence and control of extremist organizations on the other, obliges the government, according to some analysts and specialists, to have a tight control on some sources which spread hatred and extremism sermons targeting the youth, in particular in universities' residents, for instance, on social networks or on some television channels. I believe violence cases today and in the future will come first from areas other than mosques. It could be from university residences where some religious scholars preach something in favor of extremism without consulting the right sides. It could be on one of the new media forms or some of the channels which doesn't respect the specifications which unfortunately haven't been set yet in Algeria. According to specialists, it's highly difficult, if not impossible, to win the war over terrorism militarily without an actual and an effective involvement of all the state's institutions and civil society's organizations. There are other preventive measures, such as involving the national education through civil education and religious education. In addition to civil society and parties, they have also the task of political education. So all the state sectors and institutions have this duty of raising awareness among the citizens to immune them from such terrorist thoughts and extremism. The security alert state declared by the leadership of the military institutions, the preventive measures initiated by the government to stop youth recruitment in terrorist ranks, in addition to popular induction from mosques platforms, are all pre-strategic battles Algeria is waging against terrorism, which has infiltrated the borders now. A strategy which, in a nutshell, involves the cornerstone of security, the citizen.
National Defense Ministry has announced in a communique that 3 dangerous terrorists have been killed today, Saturday, near the town of Tadmate in the province of Tizi by a detachment of the People's National Army in an operation. 3 Kalashnikov-type submachine guns, 6 magazines, a pair of binoculars, a quantity of ammunition, explosives, manufacturing tools, 3 mobile phones and other items have been recovered during this operation. Moving on to economic news, Mohammed Sayed has been appointed as the head of the bureau in the province of Tizi Ouzou. This step is part of the FCE national deployment strategy in a bid to bring national economic operators closer together. And on the sidelines of the installation of the Tizi Ouzou Bureau, FCE President Ali Haddad called openly Algerian entrepreneurs abroad to come back and invest in Algeria. Let's take a listen.
Lancer un appel solennel à nos compatriotes.
I call our compatriots and the people of the province of Tizi Ouzou abroad, who are always proud of their origins, to contribute to the economic development of their beautiful region. No one can deny the success, the dynamism, the intellectual capacities, the financial means and entrepreneurial predispositions of this community. We tell them that they will find attentive ears and the necessary attention for the implementation and the success of their projects.
Prédisposition entrepreneuriale de cette communauté.
Ali Haddad also said that the FCE Businessman Forum, which he presides, is, quote, bothering some lobbies that aim to destabilize and hinder the activities of the forum. That's
Bien sûr, nous dérangeons.
Of course, we bother the lobbies, who have no interest in the prospering of national production. Things should be clear. I'm not talking about importers and economic operators who contribute to the dynamic. We bother those who profit from petrol profits.
Dans la contribution à la dynamique, nous dérangeons.
As expected, the 90th edition of the International Auto Show of Algiers has failed to meet Algerians' expectations, with no available cars and no displayed prices and no car dealers either. This year's edition was labelled the worst to date and compared to previous ones.
The last day of the International Automobile Fair of Algiers. Blazing prices and frowned faces. Not only that, but in case the customer intended to buy a car, he must wait a period of at least 6 months to receive it. This final day comes as a confirmation for what everyone expected. This year's edition was the worst of its predecessors.
Last year's edition was definitely much better. There are no cars available and prices are blazing.
I came from the province of Msila to purchase a car. We've toured the fair. Some brands say there are no cars available, and some others say you have to wait up to 9 months. And no one reveals the prices.
This fair is merely for showcasing, not for car deals. There is no availability, and compared to other editions, this one didn't even meet the Algerian consumers' expectations.
For Nassim, one of this fair's visitors, going there was for the sole purpose of buying a family car. The reality hit him hard. With no cars available, no car deals are to be made.
Before cars were available and prices displayed, this year, if there are cars, then no prices are displayed. Even if you want to make an order, you can't. Are distributors accomplices with these agencies, or are they just not competent? This edition was definitely not what we expected, and definitely the worst compared to its predecessors.
2016 Automobile Show edition was nothing but agencies participating to fill the gap in an annual event, and rather making of it an opportunity for free publicity. For others, however, participation was inevitable.
In other news, French Prime Minister Manuel Valls will pay a working visit to Algeria from the 9th to the 10th of April, leading a delegation composed of 10 ministers. This visit is part of the high-level intergovernmental committee meeting on the 10th of April. Although the meeting mainly involves several economic agreements, security issues will be also high in the agenda. Karim Fazdakri.
Leading a delegation composed of 10 ministers, the French Prime Minister Manuel Valls visit Algeria on the 9th and 10th of April. Although the visit has an economic purpose, it carries much political and security significance as well. First of all, this visit comes as part of high-level intergovernmental coordination and consultancy between France and Algeria, as well as it's part of important economic agreements, seeing that last year there were many agreements which haven't been signed yet, and thus there will be an evaluation on their progress. Heavy files are to be discussed high on the agenda of the Intergovernmental Committee meeting, mainly combating terrorism. The agenda of this meeting includes several geostrategic agreements such as the security situation in Libya, immigration crisis, in addition to political agreements, chiefly 1968 Concord, which gives priority to Algerian immigrants in France. It's a war on terrorism and facing the security challenges in addition to coordinating in information exchange and averting any kinds of security derailment and tensions which could have a direct or indirect influence. Secondly, one of the priorities is dealing with the Libyan file according to a plan which could save the country from this dilemma and crisis it is living now. France is one of the countries calling for military intervention. Thus, Algeria is trying to maneuver and exploit this visit in passing its ideas and solutions. The French PM's visit comes in critical time Europe is witnessing due to terrorist attacks, a situation which needs immediate strategic solutions. Algeria is ready to coordinate and implement various security plans to help its partners solve this issue, which Algeria has long experience dealing with.
Moving on to world developments, a man wearing a suicide belt walked into an Iraqi soccer stadium Friday and blew himself up, killing at least 25 people and wounding 90 more. A crowd had gathered for a ceremony to mark a championship for a popular local soccer team when the bomb exploded. The attacker struck at Al-Shuhada Stadium in Babil province city of Askandaria, roughly 50 kilometers south of Baghdad. According to a statement posted online by supporters, ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack. And it's worth mentioning that UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon offered his condolences today, Saturday, to the families and friends of the people killed in the suicide bombing, adding that, quote, the international community stands with Iraqis in horror and outrage. Syrian government forces advanced into Palmyra on several fronts today, Saturday, with support from airstrikes amid heavy bombardment. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights described it as the heaviest assault yet in a 3-week campaign by the Syrian army and allied militia fighters to recapture the desert city from the so-called Islamic State insurgents. Waves of explosions hit buildings and smoke could be seen rising from many locations. Belgian prosecutors have charged a man with terrorist offences in connection with the deadly attacks in Brussels that left 31 dead. They named him as Faisal C, who was arrested on Thursday. Separately, the authorities have appealed for a march against fear planned for Sunday to be postponed, citing concerns that it could divert police resources away from the investigation. And way back to Algeria now with football news. The Desert Foxes beat Ethiopia team 7-1 Friday in Mustafa Chakar Stadium in Blida province as part of the third day of the qualifiers for the African Cup of Nations 2017 in Gabon. This is the third victory in a row for the Desert Foxes, who will fly to play the second leg match against Ethiopia next Tuesday in Addis Ababa. Let's follow this report.
In their 10th group, Algeria played Ethiopia in the third round for the next African Cup of Nations qualifiers. Both sides played last night in the popular Mustafa Chakir Stadium in Blida in front of about 40,000 spectators. Algeria finished the match victorious 7-1 in a complete absence from their Ethiopian peers, producing their third win in a row towards the African tournament in Gabon in 2017. Safir Taider's 25 yards volley was the highlight of the night after a well-executed cross from Leicester City's very own Riyad Mahrez. The latter led his country to an astonishing win, assisting 2 out of 7 goals in the back of the opponent's net. Sofiane Fighouli and Islam Slimani ended the match with 2 goals, each scored in the 24th and 48th minute and the 32nd and 90th minute respectively. Porto star and left wing Yassin Brahimi had his say in the match with a good individual effort that was summed up with a goal 15 minutes before the end. A few minutes later came Safir Taider's volley from a magnificently taken corner kick by Riyad Mahrez. Rachid Ghazal, Olympique Lyonnais right wing, who recently joined the Foxes, scored for Algeria again in the 81st minute. Ethiopia's sole goal came from a counter-attack in the 85th minute. Having reached 9 points from 3 wins in 3 matches, Algeria is now closer than ever to booking a spot in the group stage of the African competition. If the Foxes come back from Addis Ababa with only 1 point on Tuesday, that will be enough to see them go through to the finals with only 2 matches remaining, at home versus Lesotho and away versus Seychelles. After the match, Riyad Boudebou said this big score came in solidarity with national manager Christian Gourcuff, after the recent reports suggesting he could leave after the second leg to Ethiopia next Tuesday. The latter refused to comment on his future. Gourcuff spoke about his team's performance in the post-match press conference.
Algeria's manager Christian Gourcuff praised his players, describing them to be a talented group who would help any manager apply their tactics efficiently. They deserve to be congratulated. We were the better team, and the scoreline proves it.
Safir Taider, Bologna's midfielder, shared his views on last night's match.
We did the job brilliantly. We were professionals and respected the opponent. A very good win. Now we should rest and think of the next match on Tuesday to come back with yet 3 more points.
On his official Facebook page, ex-Egyptian footballer star Mohamed Aboutrika said the Algerians were very amusing and convincing in their win. The Algerian public was divided between those who said this score would guarantee us the next African title, whereas others thought the team did not perform in a way that would see them lift the trophy in Gabon.
And finally, Zahia Mader, painter whose unique paintings were the subject of appreciation and admiring either from inside or outside the country. Paintings portraying not only the traditional Algerian woman, but the alleys and old neighborhoods of her city, Oran, putting her own touch onto them. Hints Minaras.
A one-of-a-kind artist that gets her inspiration from the authentic Algerian heritage, from traditional clothes to Sidi El Houari antique streets in the Oranese suburbs, and even the Turkish baths that recount the story of the succession of civilizations in the western province of Oran. Not only that, women have always occurred in her paintings, majestically adorning them with her special touch.
I have a special touch in my paintings. I always have something to add. I paint something, for example, a woman in a hayek. I dress her in one and put the kasbah as a background. Women in the kasbah have always worn the hayek. The hayek I'm using is vintage. It is 50 years old. I want to immortalize it.
Her participation in numerous exhibitions has entitled her to many prizes and encouragements vis-à-vis of her impressive works of art that have even been marketed outside the country.
I've been to dozens of exhibitions. I've been in this field for 7 years now, and everyone approves of what I do, whether inside or outside the country. I have customers coming to me from the 4 corners of Algeria, and even foreigners. One Jordanian even requested a Berber-themed painting. I want to showcase our traditions through my paintings.
It is said that artists celebrate beauty. Zahia is today celebrating her paintings, in which she excelled in portraying the Algerian authentic history and heritage all together.
And now let's have a reminder of our main top stories. People's National Army intensifies counterterrorism operations amid Algeria's critical security situation. FCE Forum establishes its bureau in tizi, ouzou province and calls Algerians abroad to invest in their home country. And Syrian government forces advancing to Palmyra on several fronts today, Saturday, with support from airstrikes amid heavy bombardment. The end of our English news edition. For more news, visit our website and other social media networks. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.